Fallout's aesthetic lends a lot from 1950s design with a special gloss of post-apocalyptic sci-fi. What always interested me was how the synths fit into all this. They aren't just simply atomic age robots. How did Bethesda fare with the challenge of creating humanoid androids in Fallout's signature pulp sci-fi world? I love this image. It shows something that was clearly meant to appear human, but when you peel back the outer layer, it only vaguely resembles a human. There's vague signs of a human skeletal structure, but for the most part, these designs are completely unique. Where a human would have fat and muscle holding the skin up above the skull, this synth has a wireframe, further solidifying its forgery. When the artists at Bethesda were tasked with coming up with designs for androids that were antiquated but at the same time futuristic, they channeled vintage prosthetic limbs. They also just generally took influence from medical technology from the post-war era. That's where you get this eggshell white color. Add this mint background for an extra special 50s effect. There's some mint in the structure too. The inside resembles a simple car engine, with copper-colored tubing laid out in shapes much like human organs. The outer layer looks like a vintage mannequin, or a World War II parachute crash test dummy. You can see it especially well in the different sections and the chest cavity. The skeletal structure that runs through the whole body is the only part that looks relatively modern. With metal that thin, it must be pretty rigid. With all of these different inspirations in mind, it's pretty clear that they successfully threw together everything they could from the era to create a new android style that fits their complex world beautifully. I think it's safe to assume that the look of the synths is also the product of popular culture. The obvious connection could be made to the Terminator. These days, I see a huge similarity between the Gen 3 synths in Fallout 4 and the hosts in the HBO series everyone's talking about right now, Westworld. Specifically, how they're built. You have the giant automated arms, the big needles, the white-colored bones and muscles building onto themselves, the giant ring, the position of the body in the giant ring. Series creator Jonathan Nolan cites video games as a huge inspiration for Westworld, and how the characters would react inside of a world with no consequence. He name drops Red Dead Redemption, Skyrim, BioShock, and Grand Theft Auto 5 as direct influences. But no Fallout. Where's Fallout? He didn't mention Fallout in any of these interviews. What gives? Personally, I believe Fallout 4 was a major inspiration for a lot of the imagery we see here. The way the synths are built looks almost identical to how the robots are built in Westworld. The show was in development around the same time that the game came out. It's possible that this part of the show wasn't being developed until after the game came out in November of 2015. But what if Fallout really wasn't an inspiration for Westworld? What if the two just drew the same conclusions based on android technology in the real world or elsewhere in popular culture? Maybe they got some ideas from iRobot, which in turn took ideas from that weird Bjork video in 1997. And it looks a little better, to be perfectly honest. We can go even further. The 1995 Ghost in the Shell movie opens with a title sequence that is similar to Westworld, and the way the body is initially structured bears a resemblance to the Gen 2 synths. Again, we're seeing an android colored with pure white skin while being put together. What about the 1993 PC game Syndicate, which uses the same sort of ring contraption? How could it be a coincidence that all three IPs came up with the same ring thing? There's actually an answer for this, and you might have already beat me to it. Come on, you know you've seen this before. If you don't know the name of the work, you at least know the name of the classic artist that created it. Did it come to mind yet? It's Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man. The Italian name is Le proporzioni del corpo umano secondo Vitruvio, translated to the proportions of the human body according to Vitruvius. It doesn't get any more original than this. While Da Vinci drew the piece in 1490 and created the iconic visual we all know, Vitruvius came up with the concept somewhere between 30 and 15 BC. Beat that, Syndicate. Vitruvius was an architect who based his works off of the human figure. He determined that the ideal body structure should be 8 heads tall. That's just a little bit taller than the average man. And superheroes are like 9 heads tall. Vitruvius also used geometry to describe the perfect human. Da Vinci took this teaching and visualized it. And that's how us humans came up with the idea of the perfect human, in this pose, in this circle thingy. Naturally, when you're creating an android, you'd probably want it to resemble the perfect human. To get those proportions just right, it sits in the ring in this pose, in this circle thingy. Wow, bet you didn't think you'd get an art history lesson in this video, did you? Bethesda was met with a challenge. Many people in the past have depicted androids in one form or another, which is a challenge in itself. But what was unique about Bethesda's challenge was that it had to fit into the post-war, atomic age, retro future, pulp sci-fi world of Fallout. Creating the perfect human as a robot in this setting using the limitations of the world, I think they did a pretty damn good job. So what do you guys think about the look of the synths in Fallout 4? Maybe you think they could have gone a little more sci-fi with it, maybe even a little creepier, maybe? Leave it in the comments below, and if you like this video, be sure to let us know by hitting that like button. This series is only possible thanks to the support from viewers like you and the help of our patrons. If you haven't already, make sure you check out some of the perks available on our Patreon, like seeing these videos early, or getting a behind-the-scenes look at some of the other shows, or participating in exclusive chats, stuff like that. Also, make sure you let me know what you want to see on the art. You can tweet at me at Bob Wulff, spelt all weird like that. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, guys. And I'll see you in the next video. Have a good week.